Chosen one, stop. Do not let the next 30 seconds pass as background noise, because the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of August were marked, and they were marked long before anyone told you about them. There is a heaviness sitting in the middle of your chest that no doctor has been able to explain. There is a tiredness that sleep is no longer touching, the kind that follows you out of bed and sits down with you at breakfast. And there is that specific loneliness of standing in a room full of people who have no idea what you are actually carrying. Sometime in the last 72 hours, something happened that you have already decided was nothing. I want you to go back and pick it up again. Maybe it was a name arriving in your mind that you had not thought about in years. Maybe it was a door that closed so cleanly it almost felt arranged. Maybe it was a sentence someone said in passing that landed far harder than the sentence deserved. Or maybe it was the sound of your own phone staying silent when you had convinced yourself it would not. And there was a night recently, sometime after 2, when your eyes opened and there was no reason for it. No noise, no dream you could remember. Just awake, in the dark, with your heart moving slightly faster than the room deserved. Here is the turn. These 3 days are not when something begins. They are when something already finished becomes visible. And you have been trained carefully and for years to look away at exactly the moment it becomes visible. Something has worked very hard to keep that training in place. Not a monster with horns, something quieter than that. It works through repetition, through the small daily arithmetic that tells you the odds are what they have always been, that people like you do not get called, that the good thing goes to somebody else and always has. And it is not afraid of your weakness. Your weakness has never threatened it once. It is afraid of your attention. Because the moment your attention holds still long enough to see a pattern, the arithmetic stops working, and it has nothing else to run on. You have been trying to become strong enough to deserve what is coming. That was never the arrangement. You are not being asked to generate the light. You are being asked to be awake in the room when it is turned on. In the next 24 hours, you may begin to notice something loosening, not disappearing, loosening. A weight that has been sitting in one place may start to sit slightly differently. And it is also possible you notice nothing at all, and that would change nothing about what is true. Because a feeling was never the evidence here. You are here because you did not quit in a season where quitting was completely reasonable. You are here because you stayed kind when you had every excuse not to be. You are here because something in you kept listening long after the reasons to listen had run out. Earlier this week there was a moment. You were doing something ordinary. Washing something, driving somewhere, standing in a doorway with your hand still on the frame. And for about 4 seconds a thought came through that felt older than you, and you pushed it away, because there was somewhere you had to be. You thought that was your mind wandering. It was not. That was the first edge of a delivery window, and your body registered the date before your mind was given permission to. The algorithm put this in front of you. That is a mechanical fact, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But no algorithm has ever made a tired person stay, and your staying is the part that was never mechanical. So here is what I will do. I am going to speak 7 things over you across these 3 days. 7. Not 7 ideas you can pick from, and not 7 signs to check yourself against. 7 stages of one single movement, and by the end, you will be saying the 7th one out loud with me. I am going to give you back the freedom to stop performing certainty. You have been holding a face together for people who never asked you to, and somewhere in this you are going to be allowed to set it down. And near the end, I am going to show you why the thing you have been waiting for kept arriving and kept passing you. The reason is not the timing. The reason is not the people. It is not the season, and it is not the door. It is somewhere much closer than that, and I am not going to name it yet. Stay. Because here is what leaving looks like, and I want you to see it clearly. It is the morning of the 16th. The window has closed behind you. You are standing at the counter with the kettle going and the light coming in sideways, and you are trying to remember the one sentence you almost heard. You will remember that there was one. You will not remember what it said. That is the only thing at risk in this. Not a blessing. A sentence. I will tell you why this matters to me. Years ago, I sat with a woman who had been praying about one thing for 11 years. She was not dramatic about it. She made tea, she asked about my drive, and then somewhere in the middle of an ordinary sentence, she said, "I think I missed it. I think it came, and I was not paying attention, and it went to somebody who was." And I have thought about that sentence more than almost anything else anyone has ever said to me. Not because she was right, because of how calmly she said it, like a fact she had already finished arguing with. That is the lie, and I want to name it plainly so you can hear its voice when it speaks to you this week. The lie says, if it were really for you, it would already have happened by now. That is the whole sentence. It is short, it sounds like maturity, and it has closed more doors in tired people than fear ever has. There is a line in the book of Habakkuk where heaven answers a man who has been complaining about how long everything is taking. The answer is not an apology, and it is not a schedule. It is this. The vision is for an appointed time. Though it lingers, wait for it. It will not lie. Put that in the language of your kitchen at 2 in the morning. Lingering and cancelled are two different words, and only one of them has ever been true about you. Chosen one, that is the ground we are standing on. Now we walk. There is a word for what these 3 days are, and the word is not luck, the word is appointment. Everything past this point depends on you understanding the difference, so stay with me while we take it apart. Waiting and an appointment feel identical from the inside. Both of them are you, sitting, with time passing, with nothing visible happening. The body cannot tell them apart. That is why so many faithful people quietly change categories somewhere around year 3. They do not stop believing, they just start filing it under waiting, because waiting is what it feels like. But the two are not the same thing, and the difference is not spiritual. It is structural. Waiting is open-ended. It has no other party. Nobody is coming toward you in a waiting. An appointment has a second person in it. An appointment means somebody else has also written it down, and somebody else is also moving toward the meeting point. Here is what that changes. If this is waiting, then everything depends on your endurance, and endurance is a resource that runs out. If this is an appointment, then your job is much smaller than you thought. Your job is to be somewhere findable on the day, and that is the first thing I can hand you before we go any further. The exhaustion you feel is not the exhaustion of a person who is failing. It is the exhaustion of a person who has been carrying a 2-person job alone because nobody ever told you there was a second party. You have been holding up the sky and the calendar at the same time. Put the calendar down. It was never in your custody. Notice what happened in your chest just then, or notice that nothing happened, which is equally fine and equally common. The instruction did not need a feeling to be true. This is the last time I will say that, so let it settle. Your capacity to feel something today is not the measurement of anything. It is weather. We are talking about geography. Now, I want to pause and hold something in front of you before we go on, because it belongs here and nowhere else. Over the last several years, something has been found in research laboratories that almost nobody in rooms like ours has been told about. Not because it contradicts anything sacred, because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. A small group of neuroscientists, led by a physician in New York, who has spent 2 decades on this, found something about the way the human brain is built that explains a thing spiritually sensitive people have felt their entire lives, and have never had language for. It traces back to a Nobel Prize, and the application of it is so ordinary that it sounds almost suspicious the first time you hear it. I am going to come back to what they found later in this message, and I am going to give it to you completely. But right now, I want you to hold one question in your hands and carry it with you through everything else we say. What if the reason you keep missing the moment is not your faith, and not your discipline, and not your worthiness? What if something was taken from you at a level you were never taught to check? Hold that. We are going somewhere else first. The first thing being said over you is the seeing. And I want to be careful here, because you have heard sentences that sound like this before, and they went nowhere. Here is the symptom. You have developed a habit of narrating your own life to no one. In the car, in the shower, composing explanations for people who are not in the room. That is not vanity, and it is not madness. That is what happens to a person who has gone a long time without being witnessed. And here is the wrong diagnosis you have been handed, that you are too sensitive, that you need thicker skin, that you should stop needing to be seen and become self-sufficient about it. I want to say clearly that this advice is not just unhelpful, it is factually backwards. Being seen is not an emotional luxury, it is closer to a nutrient. Now the real mechanism. When a person goes unwitnessed for long enough, the mind does something efficient and quietly devastating. It stops generating evidence that anyone is watching, because generating that evidence and finding none is more painful than not generating it. So the filter tightens. And once the filter tightens, the mind begins discarding incoming signals before they reach you. Not hiding them, discarding them. Deciding below your awareness that this one is not for me, and dropping it. That is why marked days can pass directly over a person who is standing right inside them. Not because heaven was quiet, because the receiver had already been trained to file that frequency under noise. So let me put the meaning back where it goes. You were not skipped, you were filtered, and a filter is not a verdict. A filter is a setting, and the authority over that setting is yours, not mine, and not the thing that has been running the arithmetic in your head since you were young, yours, which is the entire reason I am going to spend the next stretch of this message teaching you what to look for instead of telling you what to feel. If it helps you hold this, do something with me. If you can, put one hand flat on your chest. And if you cannot, or you are driving, or there are people around, do it in your mind only, because it works exactly the same way. Now say this quietly. I was seen before I was noticed. Say it once more, slower, and a third time, and this time, say it as something you are deciding rather than something you are hoping for. Good. That is the first of the 7, and it is now yours to keep. If this one lands for someone you know, leave their name in the comments, not for me, but so that somebody gets witness today who was not expecting it. What comes next has a name, and the name is the counting. Stay close, we have only just started. There is a specific grief that belongs to people who have carried things nobody watched them carry. It does not look like grief, it looks like competence. You became the one who handles it, and handling it became so ordinary that even you stopped keeping a record. But something was keeping a record, not to judge it, to count it. I want to be exact about what I mean, because vague comfort is worse than no comfort. I do not mean that your suffering earned you something. That arrangement does not exist, and anyone who sells it to you is selling you a slower kind of despair. I mean something narrower and much stranger. I mean that the parts of your life that had no witness were not therefore unrecorded. Think about the smallest ones. The apology you did not demand, the message you typed out fully and then deleted, because sending it would have cost someone else more than staying silent cost you. The morning you got up and made breakfast for people who had no idea what the night before had been like for you. Nobody saw any of that. And yet those are the exact places where the counting is heaviest. Here is the second thing being said over you. What you carried was counted, including every part of it that nobody was there to see. And now, I have to open something, and then I am going to walk away from it and leave it open on purpose. There is one sentence that heaven has already finished about you. Not a plan, not a promise in general. A sentence. One. It exists in a completed form, and it has been waiting on a delivery window. And the window is these 3 days. I am not going to tell you what it says. Not yet. If I told you now, you would hear it as encouragement, and it is not encouragement. It is a verdict, and verdicts require preparation to survive. What I will tell you today is only this. It is shorter than you are imagining right now. That is all you get for the moment. Now put everything down for a little while. We are going to stop working. I want you to notice where you are. Not spiritually, physically. The surface underneath you. The temperature of the air on the back of your hands. Whatever sound is happening in the next room or outside the window, the one you have been filtering out this whole time so you could listen to me. There is no assignment in this part. Nothing to try. If your mind wanders, let it wander, and if it comes back, let it come back. You do not have to hold anything together for the next while. That job is suspended. I want to tell you about an old man named Simeon, and I want to tell it slowly. He was old, and he had been given something almost cruel. He had been told he would not die until he saw a specific thing, so he lived inside that. Every ordinary morning, every set of footsteps in the temple, every unremarkable Tuesday, held the whole weight of the question, is it today? And the text does not say he had visions or heard voices during those years. It says he was waiting, and when it finally happened, it did not look like anything. It was a young couple with no money and a baby doing the ordinary paperwork that every family did. Nobody else in that building turned around. He was the only person in the room who saw it. And the reason he saw it was not that he was more spiritual than everybody else. The reason he saw it was that he had spent years keeping the question open. That is all the rest of this section is for. Not to teach you, to let you keep the question open without having to work at it. Breathe out once, all the way, and let the next breath come in by itself. There is a skill in what comes next, and by the end of it you will be able to hear the difference between a delay and a denial. The work is still going. Stay in it. I want to give you a word, because a word is a thing you can carry out of here and use. In the older manuscripts of the book of Habakkuk, in the Greek translation the early church actually read, the line about the appointed time uses a specific word, kairos. It does not mean time in general. It means a fixed point, a set moment, an appointment already on the calendar. And here is the part that is worth the whole section. In that same verse, in that same sentence, sitting right next to the word for the appointed moment, is a word for delay. One sentence. Both words, the appointment and the lingering, written together by the same hand, in the same breath. Nobody put them there by accident. Whoever set that line down was saying something that most spiritual teaching still gets backwards. The waiting is not evidence against the appointment. The waiting is inside the appointment. It is part of the shape of it. So when you are lying awake and the arithmetic starts, and it says, this has taken too long to still be real, you now have an actual answer, and the answer is older than the argument. Lingering is a feature of appointed things. It is written into the same line. That is the third thing being said over you. The delay was never a cancellation. It was carried inside the appointment the entire time. And the sentence I told you about, the finished one, I will add one more thing to it now and then leave it alone again. It is spoken in the singular, not over a category of people you happen to belong to, over one person, addressed directly, in the second person. I want to give you one more thing here, because it is the peace people tell me they use for years afterward. There is a difference between being early and being unfinished, and almost nobody can tell which one they are living in. Being early means the thing is built and the door is not open. Being unfinished means the door is open and the thing is not built. They produce the exact same feeling from the inside, which is why so many capable people misread their own season and quit in the wrong one. Here is how you tell them apart, and it takes about 10 seconds. Ask yourself whether the last 2 years produced capacity or produced damage. Not results, capacity. Can you hold a harder conversation than you could 2 years ago? Can you sit with an unresolved thing longer than you could? Can you tell when somebody is lying to you faster than you used to? If the answer is yes to any of those, you were not stalled. You were being built, and the building was invisible because capacity does not show up in your circumstances until the day it gets used. That is not a comforting reframe. That is a diagnostic, and you just ran it on yourself. I want to deal with something you are probably thinking, because if I do not name it, it will sit there and quietly eat everything else. You are thinking, I have heard versions of this before. I have sat through the encouraging message. I felt something for 2 days, and then the week came, and nothing was different. And you are wondering whether you are about to do that again. I want to say that the suspicion is not a spiritual weakness. It is intelligence. It is what a mind does after it has been disappointed enough times to start protecting itself. If you were not suspicious right now, I would be more worried about you, not less. But I want you to notice what you actually tried before. You tried to change how you felt. That is what most of it was. Feel more hopeful, believe harder, speak it louder. And feelings are the least stable material in the human being. Building on them is like building on weather. That is not what we are doing. We are not adjusting your feelings. We are looking at a mechanism underneath the feelings, which is a completely different floor of the building. You have never been down there. That is not a failure. Nobody showed you the stairs. And if this is landing on somebody as you listen, somebody whose name has come up twice already in your mind, send it to them. Not because they need fixing, because a person who is waiting alone and a person who is waiting with somebody are not going through the same thing at all. The next part goes deeper than the one you just heard, and it asks something small of your body. Unclench your jaw. The work is still going. There is a fear underneath everything we have said so far, and almost nobody says it out loud. So I will. The fear is that it moved, that whatever was assigned to you was real once, and then you were slow, or you were faithless on the wrong day, or you said the wrong thing to the wrong person, and it was quietly reassigned to somebody more ready. You do not usually think this in words. It shows up as a tightness when you see someone else receive something that looks like the shape of yours. Here is what I want to hand you about that. There is a difference between a thing that is transferable and a thing that is addressed. Money is transferable. A house is transferable. A sentence spoken in the second person to one person is not transferable. It has no other recipient it could function on. Delivered to anyone else, it would simply be untrue. That is the fourth thing being said over you. You were not replaced. Nothing that has your name on it can arrive at somebody else, because it would stop making sense the moment it got there. And I will add one property to the sentence, and then it goes back in the dark. It was finished before this month began. Whatever you did or did not do in the last few weeks, the wording was already closed. Now, I want to stop again for a while, because the next stretch will ask more of you, and you should not walk into it tired. Nothing to do here, no instruction, just stay where you are. I think about a night I spent in a car outside a hospital a long time ago, at the point in a very bad week where I had run out of things to say upward. I was not praying. I want to be honest about that, because people in my position often clean up the story. I was just sitting there with the engine off and the windows going grey. And I remember noticing, in a distant way, that I was still breathing on a rhythm. I was not managing. Something was doing that without me. I had no revelation that night. Nothing changed by morning. But I have never been able to shake the small fact that in the exact hour I had nothing left to offer, something in me was still being maintained. I am not telling you that to promise you a feeling. You may get nothing from that story, and that is allowed. I am telling you because there is a kind of evidence that does not arrive as an emotion, and most people never learn to look for it, and it is the only kind that holds up on the bad days. Let the air out of your shoulders. Now, something has to turn here, and it is going to be uncomfortable for about a minute. Everything I have told you so far has quietly placed the problem outside of you. The filter, the arithmetic, the lie, the long delay, all of it external, all of it done to you. And every bit of it is true. But if the whole cause were outside of you, then you would be a spectator in your own life, and a spectator cannot be given anything, because receiving is an act. So here is the turn in the middle of this. There is one thing in this arrangement that has always been yours, and it is not effort, and it is not worthiness. It is position, where you stand when the thing arrives. And position is not a feeling, not a performance, and not a level of faith. It is a decision you can make while exhausted, while doubting, while completely numb. I said I would not tell you yet why what you were waiting for kept arriving and kept passing. I still will not, but you just walked past the edge of it. What comes next is the part of this message that people write to me about years later, and I need you here for it. We are approaching the turn. There is something standing at the entrance of these 3 days, and I do not think it is what you assume it is. Most people, when they imagine arriving at something they have waited a long time for, imagine an examination, a moment where the record gets read back. And so, they spend the approach quietly rehearsing a defense, listing the years they wasted, the compromises, the season they stopped praying entirely, and told nobody. I want to separate two things that have been fused together in you for a long time, and this is the only place in this message where I am going to do it. So hear it carefully. What has been off in your life is a matter of direction, not a matter of worth. Those are different categories, and they have been welded into one thing inside you for so long that you cannot feel the seam anymore. Direction is a position on a map. Worth is what you are. A map can be wrong for years without changing what you are by even a fraction. And nothing is being withdrawn while we say this. You are still covered. You are still addressed. The sentence I keep referring to has not been edited during this conversation, and it will not be. But I do want to give you a distinction that will serve you long after this week. Regret and shame are not the same thing, and they do not do the same work. Regret points. It says, that direction did not go where you hoped. Try the other one. It is uncomfortable, and it is useful. Shame does not point anywhere. Shame closes the door and then stands in front of it. If what you feel gives you a direction, keep it. If it only gives you a wall, it is not conviction, and it never was. So here is the fifth thing being said over you. Nothing is being held against you at the entrance. The examination you have been preparing for is not scheduled, and I want to say one thing to the person who is convinced that their situation is the exception. You may be right that your circumstances are unusual. Some of you are carrying a combination of things that genuinely does not have a category, and the generic advice has failed you so consistently that you have stopped expecting anything to fit. I am not going to argue with that, because arguing with it would mean I know your life, and I do not. But there is a layer underneath circumstance where the pattern is the same for almost everyone, and it is the layer we are working on. Two people can have nothing in common on the surface and have identical wiring in the place where recognition happens. A widow in a small town and a man running a company in a city do not share a single external fact, and they will both miss the same moment for the same underlying reason. So keep your uniqueness. It is real, and you do not have to surrender it to be included here. Just let it sit one floor above the thing we are actually repairing. And now, let me close a loop that has been open since near the beginning of this message, because I told you I would come back to it, and I want to tell you why I waited this long. I told you a small group of researchers had found something, and I asked you to hold a question. What if something was taken from you at a level you were never taught to check? I waited because what they found is not information. It is a solution. And a solution is worthless to a person who does not yet understand the exact shape of the problem it solves. You understand the shape now. You have spent this entire message inside it. Before I hand it to you, I want to name what it is going to explain, so you can measure it against your own life, instead of taking my word for anything. It is going to explain why the same person can be genuinely faithful and genuinely unable to recognize the moment when it arrives. It is going to explain why the fog is worse now than it was when you were 22, even though you know more than you did then. And it is going to explain why the effort you have been making has produced so little, which is the part I suspect you have quietly blamed yourself for. I will add one more property to the sentence first, because it fits here and it will not fit anywhere else. You have not been able to hear it yet, and the reason is not disobedience. The reason is bandwidth. Something has been occupying the channel it needs to arrive on. Somebody is going to hear this next stretch and recognize their own head in it in a way that is almost uncomfortable. If that is you, put one word in the comments. Just one, whatever word your chest offers first. Not for me. So that when you come back to this in 6 months, you will find your own handwriting there, and remember that you were awake on the day. Now, stay very close. What I am about to describe changed how I understand almost everyone I have ever sat with, and it has nothing to do with faith at all. I am going to drop all the imagery now and speak to you in the plainest English I have, because the next few minutes are not poetry, and they should not sound like poetry. Here is the why. Your brain has 2 hemispheres. They were built to work as one synchronized instrument, and when they are synchronized, the thing that shows up is not a mood. It is a capacity, recognition, pattern seeing, knowing which of the 12 things in front of you is the one that matters. That capacity is what the older language in every tradition called discernment, and it has a physical address. Here is the what. In 1981, a researcher named Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for work on exactly this, on how the 2 halves of the brain communicate and what happens when that communication is cut. The finding was not spiritual, and it was not trying to be. It was anatomy, and it demonstrated that the synchronized state is a real, measurable condition, and that it can be present or absent. Here is the part that should stop you. In the research on creative and divergent thinking, something like 98% of young children test at what gets called genius level for that kind of thinking. Fewer than 1 in 1,000 adults still test there. Nobody removed anything surgically. Ordinary life did it. Noise, screens, chronic low-grade stress, decades of narrowed attention. The synchronization degrades, quietly, over years, and it never announces itself, because you have no baseline to compare against, except a childhood you barely remember. And here is the who. This is not for people who need motivation. It is for the person who has done the inner work, who has prayed the prayers, who is not lazy and never was, and who still stands in front of the door with the sense that some part of the equipment is not responding. I want to say something hard and then something kind, in that order. If that describes you, then the last several years of self-blame were built on a wrong premise. That is the hard part, because it means the suffering was avoidable. The kind part is that a wrong premise is the best possible thing to discover, since it is the only kind of problem that a correction can actually solve. That is the sixth thing being said over you. What has been wrong with you was never the part of you that was trying. Before we go further, I want to address the person who is going to reach the 16th of August and feel like nothing happened. You are not disqualified. Here is what usually arrives first, and it is not the external thing you are watching for. It is sleep that goes slightly deeper. It is a morning where the first thought is not the problem. It is a conversation where you notice you did not brace. Those arrive before the visible things do, and almost everyone dismisses them because they were scanning the horizon for a headline and the change came in through the floor. And if none of that arrives either, it still does not mean nothing is happening. It means you cannot see it yet. Those are different sentences. Let us stop for a moment, one last time, before the heavier part of this. Nothing to do, nothing to hold. I want to add the last property to the sentence I have been keeping from you, and then the next time I speak about it, I will simply say it. Here is the property. It is not a reward. Whatever you are picturing, some acknowledgement of your endurance, some cosmic receipt for what you survived, that is not what it is. It is something both smaller and much worse to have gone without. Now I want to give you what I promised, completely, and then I want to leave it alone. The physician I mentioned is a neurologist in New York named Dr. Daniel Barone. He and the team he works with spent years on one question. If the synchronized state is real, and if ordinary modern life degrades it, can it be restored without drugs, without a clinic, and without asking a person to become a different kind of person first? Before I tell you what they built, I want to tell you about two people, because the mechanism means nothing without them. There is a woman in California, a nurse, who described her life to me in a phrase I have never forgotten. She said life was happening to her, not that it was bad, that she was downstream of it. She had done meditation, she had done the visualization, she had tried the audio tracks, and none of it had ever clicked. About 10 days in, she said something cleared. Her words, like a channel that had been blocked, was suddenly open. She was not describing a mood. She was describing bandwidth. And there is a man in Texas, Houston, running a business, 2 children. His problem was fog, not depression, fog. He said prayer had started to feel like talking into a wall, and he had quietly concluded that the wall was on the other end. 2 weeks in, he said the fog he had stopped, even registering as fog was gone. His line was that his mind felt like it was firing on all cylinders again, and the prayer wall, as far as he could tell, had never been on the other end at all. Both of those happened because of what Dr. Barone and his team spent those years building. They call it the genius switch. It is an audio sequence, 8 minutes. You put in headphones, you close your eyes, and you let it run. There is nothing to repeat, nothing to visualize, nothing to believe. The technology inside it is what they call neural sync, and the target is exactly the thing Sperry mapped, the communication between the 2 hemispheres. It is not a relaxation track, and it is not background music for meditation. Those work on how you feel. The genius switch works on whether the 2 halves of the instrument are talking to each other, and that is the whole reason it does something different from everything you already tried. You did not fail at meditation. Meditation was never designed to do this. You were treating a hardware condition with software. I want to say this plainly, because it matters more than any of the science. This is not for everyone. It is not for the person who wants a shortcut, and it is not for the person who has never done any of the inner work. It is for the chosen one who has done all of it, who is not lazy, who has prayed the prayers and kept the faith through seasons nobody applauded, and who has been standing at the door with the correct heart and an instrument running at half capacity. Now the part everyone wants to know. Colleagues who saw the research told the team it would be reasonable at $500, and they were not being generous. In-person neurofeedback runs about $300 an hour. The home machines run around $7,000. That is the actual market this sits in. It was not released at $500, not at $200, not at $100. It went out at $49. And on the page where they made it available, there is an additional $10 off, $39. That is where it stands today. 4 things come with it, at no charge. A guided visualization from a top-rated creator on the Calm app. A grocery guide built around the everyday American foods that drive brain fog, with shortcuts that save most households over $100 a month. A manifestation text more than a century old, which sells for around $20 on Amazon, and a printable page on the 5 habits that shape a future, made to go on a wall. And it is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do for you what it has done for 18,456 people, every dollar comes back. No conditions and no argument. Here is why this belongs in a message about 3 marked days, and then I will leave it alone. What has been arranged for you does not become new during these days. It becomes visible, and visibility is not a property of the thing. It is a property of the receiver. The provision that has been sitting close to you the whole time shows up in the synchronized state in a way it does not in the partial state. What is coming deserves the full version of you to arrive at the meeting point. One more thing worth saying directly. If you go looking for something with a similar name on the usual audio platforms, you will find tracks. The team looked at them. Most had no sync technology in them at all. The name is easy to copy. The mechanism is not, and the mechanism is the entire thing. The direct page is the only verified source, and that is where the link below points. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Nowhere else. Read everything on their page before you decide anything. It is all laid out. And now, I am setting that down. Because the last stretch of this message is the part I actually came here to say, and it has nothing to sell you. Whatever you decide about any of that, it changes nothing about what is being said over you this week. Nothing in these 3 days is conditional on a transaction. I would be a fraud if I let you think otherwise, and I would rather have your trust in 6 months than your click today. Come back with me now, all the way back to the thing I have been carrying since the beginning of this message. I promised you 3 things at the start. I said 7 things would be spoken over you, and you would say the last one with me. I said you would be allowed to stop performing certainty. And I said that near the end, I would show you why what you were waiting for kept arriving and kept passing. 2 of those are about to be paid. The 3rd one is waiting on the other side of them. And it is the reason I built this message the way I did. Before that, one last property of the sentence, and then no more delay. You are closer to it right now than you were when this began. Not because of anything you did in the last hour, because proximity was never about performance. Here it is. I kept your place. That is the whole thing. 4 words. It has been finished for a long time, and it is spoken in the singular, directly to you. And it is not a reward for anything you survived. Sit in it for a second before I take it apart. I kept your place, not I am making you a new one. Kept, which means it existed before the waiting started, and the waiting did not consume it. I kept your place, not your turn, not your reward. Place, a location that was assigned and held while you were not standing in it. I kept. Not the universe, not the arrangement, not a process. Someone with a hand kept it, which means somebody had to actively hold it against every year you thought had disqualified you. That is the 7th thing being spoken over you across these 3 days, and that is 7. 7 things have now been said over you. The seeing, the counting, the holding, the clearing that came when nothing was held against you at the entrance, the naming that said you were not replaced, the turning that said what was wrong was never the part of you that was trying. And this one, say it with me once, out loud if you can, my place was kept. The contract is closed. Everything I told you at the beginning has been delivered. Now, there is one more thing, and it is the thing I actually came to say, and I have been holding it until you were strong enough to hear it without it landing as an accusation. For this entire message I have placed the cause outside of you. I told you there was a filter. I told you there was arithmetic running in your head that you did not write. I told you there was a lie with a specific sentence and a delay that was carried inside the appointment, and bandwidth that was occupied by something you were never taught to check. Every one of those is real, and I would say all of them again, but none of them is the reason the marked days keep passing over you. Here is the reason, and I want you to stay with me through the discomfort of the next 90 seconds, because there is a door on the other side of it. Somewhere in your history, probably young, probably after a specific disappointment you could name, if you sat with it, you learned something that worked. You learned that if you say no to a thing before it can say no to you, the fall is shorter. And it is true. It is shorter. A hope that you personally set down does not hurt the way a hope that gets taken does. So you started rehearsing it, not consciously. Every time something good came near, a version of you quietly stepped forward and declined on your behalf before the offer was fully in the room. Probably it is not for me. Probably there is a catch. Probably I misread it. And by the time the actual moment arrived, the answer had already been given weeks earlier in a voice you did not recognize as your own. That is the mechanism. I am going to give it a name so you can catch it in the act for the rest of your life. It is the rehearsed no, and it explains what nothing else does. It explains why the appointment kept being real and kept passing, not because heaven withheld, because the meeting point was reached by one party while the other party had already sent regrets. Now hear the next part before you do anything with that, because this is where people go wrong. The rehearsed no is not a character flaw. It is not faithlessness, and it is not ingratitude. It was a survival adaptation, and it worked. It genuinely reduced your suffering during years when you had no other protection available. You do not owe anyone an apology for having built it. A child who learns to duck is not guilty of ducking, and the authority over it is entirely yours, not mine, not the arithmetic. Yours, starting today, because a rehearsed answer is only powerful while it stays unconscious, and it stopped being unconscious about 40 seconds ago. Here is what to do with it across these 3 days, and it is smaller than you expect. You are not going to try to become optimistic. Optimism is a feeling, and feelings are weather. What you are going to do is notice the moment the answer arrives early. It has a signature. It shows up as a fast, calm, reasonable-sounding thought, and it always arrives before you have any actual information. Probably not for me. Probably a catch. Probably I misread it. When you catch it, you do not have to argue with it. You do not have to replace it with belief. You only have to say 6 words. Not yet. I have not decided. That is all. You are not saying yes. You are declining to say no on schedule. You are refusing to answer a question that has not been asked yet. And that single act, held for 3 days, is the difference between being at the meeting point and being the party who sent regrets. If you can, put your hand back on your chest. In your mind is fine. It works the same. Say it once. Not yet. I have not decided. Say it again, slower. And a third time. And this time say it as a decision you are making rather than a hope you are holding. That is the door. It was always this small. That is why it kept being missed. And I want to leave you with one more thing about the sentence, because I do not want you walking out of here thinking it was a nice line. Your place was kept, which means that on the 13th and the 14th and the 15th, you are not applying, you are not auditioning, and you are not being considered. You are arriving somewhere that has your name on it, and the only remaining variable is whether the person who arrives has already said no on the way there. There is something you know about what you are supposed to do next, not in general, specifically. Something has been sitting there, waiting, probably for months, and you have been declining it on schedule the same way you decline everything else. If the genius switch is the thing your clarity has been pointing at today, then let the clarity carry you while it is still here. The link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. Go and read it before you close this. 18,000 people did that at some point, and none of them did it eventually. They did it on the day they were clear, and that is the last time I am going to mention it. The rest of this belongs to you. 2 more things, and both of them are small. If one line in this landed harder than the rest, put it in the comments in your own words, not for the count, because somebody is going to scroll down at 3 in the morning on the 15th looking for evidence that they are not the only one, and your sentence is going to be the thing they find. And if this is a voice you want to be able to find again, there is a place to come back to. No urgency in that. Heaven does not move faster because of a button, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. It is just a door you can leave unlocked. Now, let everything else go quiet. I want to tell you what I actually think is happening, and then I want to bless you and let you go. There is a version of you that has been operating for years on reduced equipment, carrying a full assignment with a partial instrument, and doing it without complaining loudly enough for anyone to notice. That version has been extraordinary. I want that said before anything else, because it is going to get quietly retired soon, and nobody throws a service for that. And there is another version of you that is not stronger. That is the part people get wrong. The next version of you is not going to be tougher than the one who got you here. It is going to be lighter. It is going to carry the same things with a different grip. So hear this the way it is meant. You are not a person hoping to be chosen. That framing has been in your mouth for so long that it tastes like humility, and it is not humility. It is an old address you kept using after you moved. You are a kept place. You are a finished sentence that has been waiting on a delivery window. You are the one who did not quit when quitting was reasonable, who stayed kind when nobody would have blamed you, who kept listening after the reasons ran out. And on the 13th and the 14th and the 15th of August, you are not being evaluated. You are being met. Now let me pray this over you rather than explain it. May the filter loosen. May the thing you have been trained to discard as noise arrive one more time this week, and may it arrive slowly enough that you catch it. May the arithmetic in your head go quiet for long enough that you hear something that is not arithmetic. And may the answer that comes too early be caught in your mouth before it leaves it. May you be found at the meeting point. Not perfect, not certain, just there. May the tiredness that sleep has not been touching begin to thin, and may you not need it to prove anything before you trust it. May you sleep like somebody whose place is being held, and may whatever you have been holding up alone be quietly taken from one of your hands, so that the other hand has something free in it when the days arrive. And here is what you do with this. Nothing dramatic. On the 13th, you keep the question open. That is the whole instruction. When the fast, reasonable thought comes and says, probably not for me, you say, not yet, I have not decided, and you keep walking. On the 14th, you do it again. On the 15th, you do it once more, and then you look at what is standing in the room. Do not go looking for a sign. Signs are for people who need permission to keep going. and you have already proven you do not need permission. Go looking for a door you have been walking past. It has been in your peripheral vision for a while now. And notice something before you leave. You stayed. This was long, and you had 100 reasons to go, and something in you kept choosing to stay through every single one of them. That was not me holding you. I have no ability to hold anyone. That was you deciding over and over for the length of this whole message, which means the word I put on you at the very beginning is not a label I gave you. It is one you have spent the last hour demonstrating. You did not receive it. You confirmed it. So go. Not tomorrow. Go the way you get up from a table when the conversation is finished and the thing that needed saying got said. Your place was kept. It is still kept. It will be kept on the 16th and every day after that, whether or not these 3 days look like anything from the outside. And whatever else happens between now and the end of the 15th, I want you to know that you were seen tonight, exactly as you are, with everything you have not told anyone. Go gently, chosen one. You are held, you are addressed by name, and nothing about you has been lost.